Good afternoon. Uh, I hope you are following the assignment or the lecture that we have conducted last time. And here we are again. We will continue with our on the introductory part of the global framework for land administration and management. Now, last meeting, we were discussing about the concept of sustainable development, and then we also discussed some issues regarding the relationship between sustainable development and also like land resource issues in land resource. And then we also have discussed uh, to better understand what we meant by sustainable development. We discussed a lot of issues on what are some of the unsustainable trend, no? So that at the end of the discussion last time, we were also able to really discuss the relationship between uh, the sustainable development and also the carrying capacity, the issue of carrying capacity of the the environment. And then down the line, we also have discussed the the topic or the concept of ecological footprint. Now, having said that, I would assume, or I'm presuming that uh, all of you have accomplished or have taken the quiz on ecological footprint. And I would like you to submit that even after this lecture. No? So this afternoon we will tackle on the issue on sustainable land development, and we will connect that with what we have discussed last meeting. Now, as we have been emphasizing during our previous lecture, we said that whatever you do to the environment, it will always impact on land. No, it will impact on. In fact, I was telling you that think about any particular environmental damage, any particular environmental, say for example, problem. Uh, a lot of times, more often than not, it is always traceable to how we misuse the land resource in our environment. Now, how is it possible that whatever we do to land, we also do that to the environment? Now, how would you define? I know how would you define, say, for example, sustainable development? Because we are now going to relate land development, sustainable development with land development. That answers our question: why we need to really emphasize or say that whatever you do to land, you also do to the environment. In essence, if you think about sustainable development, since it addresses a lot of many other issues, myriad of issues in the environment. In other words, sus- if you do sustainable development, you are actually sustaining land as a resource, and then you also do you also do actually you also do a lot of activities pertaining to sustainable land development. So sustainable development, which actually connects to the environment, actually is sustainable land development, very closely related. Now, formally, Sustainable Land Development Institute in 2010 emphasized that sustainable land development formally, no, the art and science of planning, financing, regulating, designing, managing, constructing, and marketing the conversion of land to other uses through team-oriented, multidisciplinary approaches, which balance the needs of the people, planet, and profit for and the future generation. Actually, sustainable land development definition is just being really inserted or being intertwined together with the definition of sustainable development. The only thing is that there's already an element there of like regulating, financing. There is also an element there where you make the best use of land. You create wealth. You multiply wealth, in other words, by using our land resource in a sustainable manner. Okay. in a sustainable manner. We make use of utilize our land resource. Now that is sustainable development, making the land productive without compromising the environment. Okay. Now sustainable development or SLD essentially have been primarily environmental contexts. No? Sustainable development or sustainable land development are so closely intertwined as an agenda for action. In fact, sustainable development as a policy problem, there are three challenges. There are three challenges in sustainable development as a policy problem. One is how to deal with uncertainty. Okay, how to deal with uncertainty. When you talk about sustainable development, you talk about the future. How certain are you that things are going to happen as expected? There might be some shocks. There might be some perturbations in the environment that might just alter your strategy. So, how to deal with uncertainty? And then another thing, another policy problem on sustainable development is building legitimacy. Okay, building legitimacy. In other words, how will you ensure that it's implementable, and there's going to be a buy-in among the people, among the stakeholders, business people, explanation in terms of or like making sure that people participate in the process. Legitimacy is very important. Otherwise, it can go awry. It can do. It can. It can. It can go down to. Uh, it can be in shamble. In other words, if there is no legitimacy and there is no buy-in among the stakeholders. The third policy problem is steering capacity. How are you going to uh, employ people and also equip people in order that the objectives of the problem, the objectives of the development concern is gonna bear fruit in the future. Okay, from vision to like concrete implementation. So you have something in mind, something that's going to happen in the future. How are you going to really make sure that people cooperate in what you're doing? Okay. Now, first, we need to deal with environmental policy. Now, partly about uh, when we talk about environmental policy, it's about interest on plants, animals, and people in a distant countries. Okay, it's also partly in the interest of your future generation. The environmental policy also tends to be less incremental than most other policy. Okay, except when it is implemented. Okay, so that means an environmental policy, according to Hempel, environmental policy has to be very specific about flora, fauna, and then the role of science also is very important in order to uh, mitigate or even manage the dynamics of the political process. For surely, the environmental policy agenda will run counter to some extent, to a greater extent, to a large extent. It will run counter with the political agenda of people. No? So we should be ready with that. Now, in dealing with uncertainty as a policy problem in sustainable development, now there is a flow chart here how to deal with uncertainty. Okay, there is responses to uncertainty. Okay, first thing to do, of course, sort out things. Sort things out first. That means you have to really see the dynamics within the system. Be careful because it's very fragile. And then from responses, you go to uh, openness, and learning. Okay, and learning. And then you have to build consensus. If build consensus. If not, you have to really make sure that a sizable number will agree. In other words, what is the message here? The message here is when dealing with sustainable development, there should be a buy-in among the stakeholders and the target beneficiaries or whoever is the beneficiary. There should be buy-in. Otherwise, if nobody will cooperate, it will go in shamble. It's not implementable. Now, in terms of addressing issues in sustainable development also, okay, in terms of addressing issues, you have there are trends in around us that needs to be addressed. Okay, one growth, okay? Overpopulation. That's really one very important concern. No? By 2035, the world will be 2030. It's just a few steps away from 2020. Huh? It's only about 15 years. During that time, the world will be populated by people beyond the carrying capacity of the present resource. Excuse me. Now, what does it mean? Our problem, number one problem, is how to feed the world. No? So many mouths to feed. That's really a big problem. Then, what's the impact of population growth? No? Now, if there is high population growth, you will see, no, this is the world population, and this is the population in ano, in like uh, developing countries like Philippines and other countries. And then the least developed countries, these are the population. Okay, or this is the population trend of the least developed countries. In other words, there is a strong build up in population. Okay, there is a strong build up in population among among other developing countries. Okay, other developing countries. So that means this should be managed because these people or this population segment, actually, most of this will happen in like Asia because most of Asian countries are developing. Yeah? So that's really something. Now, what's the implication? The implication there is we need to feed 9.1 billion people, okay, which will in which will require us to increase overall food production by 70%. Production in developing countries must double, no? Must double. Growth needed to ensure food security, like cereals, should be 1 billion tons per year. Can you imagine? 1 billion tons per year. And then meat production also must increase at the rate of 200 million tons a year. 200 million tons a year. That's very, even this time, you know how much, the Philippines import in terms of beef only we import we import 1.5 billion kilos of beef every year in other countries. That's only beef. What about other kinds of meat? No, we import them a lot, and then that's only that, that we are only talking about the current population. What about if our population will double in the next 20 or 30 years? That's something else. So the sad thing to note is that from the 9 billion people, which will be in 2045, now 60% or 70% lives in the in the rural, I mean in the urban areas. Okay, 1 billion people live in slums, 2005, and then in 2025, 1.8 billion will probably live in slums. Slums, priority for regularization of informal settlements on public lands. Even in Manila this time, people are staying under the bridge. No housing provision at all. No, so it's really a problem. And then people are already thinking in terms of uh, pursuing on how to raise vegetables in cities, just like this in the picture. Okay, raising vegetables in the cities and also growing trees. because there is very limited land area already. Okay, so imagine 1.5, 1.8 billion. Now, another issue, when you have so much population, you have a problem of sanitation also. Now, if there's a problem with sanitation, disease and other uh, hygienic, hygiene-related uh, infection or hygiene-related health problem will surely occur. No? So, because of that hygienic problem, it will also impact on access to potable water. Okay, access to safe drinking water. No? So that's create a problem with so much people, and then the world or human waste is fast becoming an alarmingly dangerous. The world of human waste, because what can you what, what can you expect with so many people, so much accumulation of human waste? It's really terrible in big cities, no? And then another is uh, with so much population, the distribution also of resources is really very, I would say, um, inequitable. No? With with so much resource, okay, what will happen? The resource normally will gravitate to a segment of the population who can afford them. In other words, for those people who are poor and is not able to afford for the luxury of and access of food, they will become even more hungry. But for those people who can afford, a lot of these food items will go to them. Overconsumption. They'll waste a lot, while people in the developing countries really has to contend with what is available. There is overconsumption of food. No? Now, another is during those times also, there's an issue of desertification. There is an increasing, you know, area can literally transforming to become a desert. You see, in this graph, in Australia alone, it's almost like more than half of the continent is almost becoming a desert. Even in the U.S., much more here in the ano. So these are very uh, habitable lands, but already becoming a desert people. And in mainland what in mainland Asia here, so there are areas that are already fast becoming a desert. No? So another trend is because of so many people, global poverty will surely be a problem. Global poverty. And with global poverty comes high mortality also, especially young children. No? This particular statistics or news happened about 10 years ago. According to Sydney Morning Herald, they said that 20,000 young children die every day. Die every day, 20,000. That's very alarming, no? And that was like 10 years ago. What about now? Well, with the current pandemic, that's why we need to be very careful to spare our young children. Now, I have assigned you to take the quiz. No, I have assigned you to take the quiz. Now, this is the question about the quiz. That's why I told you you take the quiz and follow the question. No, follow the question that I'm going to give you. So this is the question already. No, this is the question. Now, this literature material that I also indicate here, you also need to what? You also need to like uh, read them because I'm going to send them after the lecture. Okay. So so far, no, I'm going to. This is a recorded lecture. You can go back to this and please. refer to the question, this one, in answering your learning task I have assigned to you. Okay? So complete everything and submit them before, like, well, maybe tomorrow or before Monday. Submit them before Monday through my email. Huh? Assignment, this one, this question. No? Follow them. Complete them, individual work, individual assignment, then submit that to me before Monday. Are we in agreement? Okay, let's do so, and then by next week we will have a separate lecture. Thank you, and uh, God bless.